Okay, so I'm going to open this PicsArt app. And it's going to want you to get this 3-day trial. And you don't need it. So the first thing that comes up is all these trending kind of images that are really cool, and they may grab your attention, but that's not what you're using. So go to the center and click on the plus button. Then you're going to scroll down. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. And I'm going to suggest that you start off with a color background. Now, before you do this, you should spend some time doing some sketches, some thumbnail sketches, some brainstorming. Know what type of text you're going to include. Know the kind of, color and vibe that you want. We're going to be using analogous colors on this design, which are colors that are adjacent to each other on the color wheel. What I think I'd like to do is I would like to create a design that's really simple. I'm just going to use my first name. So I'm going with a, I don't know, bright yellow background. So you do want to think about what colors advance toward the viewers and what colors recede. And by choosing this yellow background, all the yellow background is going to advance toward the viewer, and then all of the colors, the text is going to recede because it'll be darker and go off into the distance. Now, do I really want that? I could try it out, but I'm starting to second guess my decision of starting with the yellow. So I think what I want to do here is go back. And I think rather than the yellow, maybe I'm going to start with a slightly darker background. And maybe I'll go with this beautiful purple shade. Okay, so in order to get started, I think I'm going to do purples to reds. For most of my life, reds and red and like a magenta pink have been my favorites. But lately I love orange. Anyway, I need to make a decision going with the purples to reds. So I just clicked on the text button and I'm going to simply write my name. Okay, I'm going to hit check for yes. And now I come to the screen and it looks like it defaults to white. Now, as you can see, I'm playing, or you can't see my thumbs, but what I'm doing is I've got two thumbs on my name and I'm pulling them and pushing around the screen. When I get to something that's horizontal, you can see that the line comes up. Now, what if, let's see, maybe I want it diagonal. Maybe I'll go with that. But if I want to change the color, which I do, I'm going to click on the color button. And so it gives you some colors to choose from, but it also gives you this, which is a color wheel. So you can select the exact color that you want. Maybe I want this crazy magenta color. And then you can click here on that little grid there. And if you want it to be lighter and paler, yeah, you can do that. You can make it lighter, you can make it paler. That would be with the tints, creating tints here. Down here, you're working with the tones. So, very cool. I think I'm going with that. Boom, there I am, Carla. Okay, now I'm going to write another word. So I'm going to go back to font, boom, and I'm actually... No, what I need to do right now is click apply. Okay, boom, apply. All right, so once I apply it, then I can go back and I can do more stuff. I can add more text, which is what I'm going to do. And when I started playing around with this, I was getting silly and I wanted to write, take the last part of my name and write La La. As in La La Land, that beautiful movie that was out a few years ago. All right, I'm going with it. La La. Yep, silly, but that's okay. Now, when you do that and you say yes, it automatically goes into all these different types of fonts. And I think I want to combine something that's kind of whimsical, maybe oh, that's kind of fun, but I don't know if I'd want to paint that. But so I think something that is text. I'm liking text. Oh, look at that though. That's Lala like in the 1920s old Hollywood Art Deco style. All right, I'm doing that. Maybe I'll do another Lala that has text. Now, as you're figuring out how to place your letters, you do want to think about overlapping them, okay, and how you want to kind of overlap them. Now, I'm wondering if I want this, maybe I'll try it on this crazy diagonal. I'm going to crop it a little bit. So I'm thinking about my positive and negative spaces here, where I want it to be. And maybe I want my A's kind of coinciding like that. All right, well, I'm going with that. Now, I'm going to choose the color. And I want a color that's not going to be too different from my background color. Anyway, I'm going to go into that color picker again. And I want something that's like a purple, but maybe I want to go with it darker. So I'm going to go into this adjustment area right in here. And I think I wanted to go a little darker with that. So I'm going to say yes, see what happens. Hey, kind of cool. Now, what I want to do is I want to make this, no, I don't want to do that. But what I want to do is I want to make it more transparent, because we're going to be working with transparent layers. And where they overlap, that's where we're going to get that really cool illusion of transparency. So I'm going to click on opacity, and I'm going to lower this opacity, check it out, where I can see the original Carla through the Lala. Yes, I can. All right, and so those are going to be my layers of opacity. And I'm looking at, how I laid it out, and I can play around with it here, which is really nice. And I want to see that overlapping happening and some transparencies. And but I still want the Lala to be kind of visible. Okay, I'm going with that. I'm going to say apply. Boom, apply. All right. So still like loving my Lala idea, I'm going to go back into that text and I'm going to write again, la, yeah, okay. So I'm going to say yes, and this time I really do want to get that script that I had before that I liked. That I think would be really cool. So what do I want to do with that? Maybe I'll just put it down there. Oh, that's funny. Carla, la, 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 la. Okay, I really like that. I'm going to crop it on the edges because that forms more spaces. I don't know if I want to butt that up against the edge of that or have that come over. I think I'll let that float a little bit like that and maybe take it off two edges like that. I am aware that there's a lot of space up there in the upper left that's not really working yet, but I'll address that later. Okay, now, what do I need to do? Change the color. Ooh, look at that little rose pink. Okay, I like that. I'm going to go with that. Now, I'm also now going to go to opacity, and I want to lower my opacity. Oh, yeah, because I'm really trying to create those transparencies. All right, and I think I'm going to play around with this because wow, I don't know. Well, that's a lot of stuff going on in the center there. I think I'm going to leave it here, but I really like how that L on the left, how when that's layered with the C underneath it, the look that gets. Now, what's happening here is as we're working with these transparencies, we are seeing what happens when you're layering colors that are made with light and not with paint. And we'll talk more about that later. Okay, so, but yep, I think I'm going with that. Maybe bigger. Okay, fine. Now, there's other neat things you can do. Like you could add a cast shadow to this, but remember, you're going to have to paint this. So be careful how tricky you make it. Now, if you're going to add a cast shadow, do not have any blur on that cast shadow at all, because you want your cast shadow to have a shape. Okay, you want it to have clear edges and a shape. So I'm going to apply that right here, and I think that looks pretty cool. So at this point, I'm going to take a screenshot of this, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, there's a couple more things I want to show you in PicsArt that you may want to use. Under Tools, there's a couple interesting here. One thing you may want to do is play around with distortion, depending on what kind of mood or feeling you want to create, and you can drag your letters around, drag your shapes around, make them kind of weird and distorted. Whoa. All right, yeah, that's an idea. You could do that. I'm just going to cancel and discard those. Okay, another thing under Tools that you might be interested in exploring is the perspective, and you could make your drawing look like it's sort of coming at you one way or the other. Of course, if you do that, you're going to lose some of the lettering, you know. Or perhaps you may want to do, whoa, that type of thing. And so you can really play around with it and make your lettering look like it's coming toward you or going away from you. So there's that. Now, other features that PicsArt has that I think might be fun for you to play with, and be very careful when you're doing this because you don't want to take on too much. Remember, you're going to have to paint this. If you go to Shape Mask, so this year, in addition to having text, I'm going to say that you can definitely use some shapes. So for instance, if I want to put, oh, that's kind of cool, that target in there. Let's see how that works. So first of all, you can play with the opacity of the target. And then you can also make it very large. Now you can see that adds quite a bit of complexity to my design, so maybe I don't want to do that. Continuing with playing around with the shape masks, there's so many interesting shapes that you might consider superimposing on top of your text if you find that, you know, it really helps your, it helps the vibe or the meaning that you're trying to convey there. So, for instance, let's see what I might want to add here for mine. So I was really going for kind of a fun, playful, a little bit playful vibe, but elegant too. So maybe I do something with the diamond shape. I like the heart too, but let me just go for that diamond. And as you can see, I could open that way up, and kind of interesting. So if I apply that, I don't know, not bad. Maybe I'd want to do something like that. You can see what happens is that I have a whole lot more tints that I would make, and I could also, you know, crop this in tighter and on the top and the bottom if I wanted to. And if I don't want to do that, check it out, I can just go back like that. Okay, the other feature I liked a lot was lens flare, but again, be careful with this because you don't want to take on something that's really too complicated. In order to make it bigger, you just kind of pull on it like that. And if you're someone who has some experience painting and wants to play around with something like this, you can. Now, you can also make it like turn around like that. So if you want to try something that's, got a sort of a graduated means it goes from one color to the next, graduated background like that, I think playing around with one of those lens flares will work really well. I actually like that a lot. But I do want to caution you, if you don't have experience with painting, stick with flat colors. You'll have a much easier go at it. Okay. So once you come up with an image that you really like on PicsArt, you may want to just take a screenshot of it, or you could save it on PicsArt. I took a screenshot of this, and I think the way that I have some of the letters overlapping works well. I'm not a big fan of the negative space on the top left and also on the bottom right, so I am going to edit this, and I'm going to first start off by cropping it. And as I'm cropping it, I want this to be more of like a horizontal. It had more of a horizontal orientation. I still want to be able to see that A. I don't think I should cut off too much of the A, or I can't really see it. It looks like it's going to be a square. And now the other thing I may want to do is, if I don't really, if I want to change, if I really didn't like those negative spaces on the top of the bottom, I could just rotate it around as I'm cropping it, on my phone, and come up with something a little different that way. And let's see, maybe I'm liking something like that. So I think I'm going with that. So I'm going to say done. All right. Now at this point, I'm going to move it into my gridding app. Let's see where that is. There it is, grid hashtag. And yeah, not now. Then I'm going to get the image out of my photo roll. There it is. All right, well, those lines are really thick. So let me go into the settings here, and I don't want them to be so thick. So I have it on line width 20 for some reason. So I'm going to bring that line width way down, maybe to 6. I have it set for square, which is exactly what I want. Let's see what it looks like now. All right, well, not bad. And what I would have to do now is a little bit of math. So it looks like I've got something that's a little bit longer than a square. So that one row on the right, perhaps that's about a third or maybe a quarter of one of the larger squares. So I would have to figure out the math on that, and I will, and I'll write a little bit about that and put it up on Canvas for you. Okay.